Here is Rick Santorum. You'll recall that Rick Santorum was the man who inadvertently brought you right-wing Mandela, because Rick Santorum, I think it was after Mandela's death, compared his work as a Republican in trying to repeal the Affordable Care Act to the work of Nelson Mandela. And
so on fucking target, Rick Santorum. It's incredible.
Here is Rick Santorum again. It's almost as if he doesn't even realize what he's saying half the time. Here's Aaron Burnett on the topic of coal jobs coming back for Rick Santorum.
Much, Miguel, and I think really interesting what Miguel just said, that this plant reopening, had been in the works long before Trump won. Out front now, the former Republican senator and presidential candidate Rick Santorum, his home state of Pennsylvania, number 5 on the list of top coal-producing states in the country. Senator, is this what the president should be pushing for? Is it good those coal jobs back?
Well, first off, it's keeping a promise, and that's one of the most important things the president can do. And if you go out there and you campaign, you say you're going to do something, then you got to follow through and do it. And I think Mike's report was really pointed in the sense that most coal mines are in small towns and rural areas where you say, oh, it's only 20 or 50 or 100 jobs. That's a lot of jobs, good-paying jobs in some of these small rural areas that don't have a whole lot. This is a breath of oxygen into the lungs of small-town rural communities in very depressed areas of the country, in Kentucky and West Virginia and Pennsylvania and parts of Ohio, and that really need that hope, and that's what he gave them today.
The analogy might have been slightly troubling, I think, to some that you just made about lungs. But let me just ask you something about the president's promises.
You're talking to a guy whose grandfather had black lungs. So my grandfather was a coal miner, so I know all about this. And it was a deliberate analogy to actually breathe some good air into this economy, because the Obama administration basically suffocated this industry, basically took all the oxygen out of the mine, and with it went the miners. And that's what Donald Trump has brought back.
Look, and part of the reason they did that, of course, was environmental concerns.
Yeah, part of that. Of course, you'll recall, Rick Santorum, that you made the analogy that you were like Nelson Mandela for trying to repeal the Affordable Care Act, which made miners who get black lung disease much more, made treatment for them much more available, and compensation much more available. You'll recall. That was one of the big things that I think really hurt the Republicans' attempt, because that was one of the first things out of the gate. But Rick Santorum using an unfortunate analogy again, and also
as usual,
for the save.
You miss it. As usual, you miss it, Sam. You're way off fucking target. Rick is brilliant because, as you might not know, and I assume you don't, you freaking lesbian, the mining industry is a very important part of South Africa's economy. And the struggle that we were engaged in was after the introduction of the first occupational safety rules for black miners in South Africa. This is the root of our struggle. So what Rick is saying there,
you have to fight against that.
We need to fight against those occupation standards because we wanted to breathe oxygen into the lungs of every single apartheid village in South Africa. This is what Rick Santorum...
You want to bring oxygen into the coal dust.
Into the coal dust. This is correct. This is correct.
And the oxygen would push it into the lungs.
Black lungs for black workers. That was the slogan. This is what me and Ahmed Kathrada and Oliver Tambo were struggling for. And Rick gets it. And you don't, because you hate America and you're a fucking pusswad. And Joey No Socks fucking gets it. And Donald Trump gets it.
Hey, everybody. Sam Seder here.
Donald Trump is a bad guy. Believe me. It's true.
It is true. And you can subscribe to this channel by subscribing to this channel. It's true.